Welcome, gentlemen. Day 2. Anybody exhausted like myself?
What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's the OMG Hour Gamers in Beta mashup show, Day 2. It's Captain Mike M. with everybody from Gamers in Beta, minus Joe State. And Sean, who do you got with you tonight?
I got myself, Sean from the OMG Hour. We got Tico, and we have our host, our Boston host, Brian, JugglerofGeese.
So all these episodes are featuring Brian Young,
JugglerofGeese. I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I...
So I think we kicked off last night going first. So why don't you guys go first?
Oh, gosh.
And tell us about some stuff that you saw that maybe people listen.
No. We're not, I was actually thinking, what did we see today that was like super exciting? There's
That one.
so that one.
That one.
So yeah, we saw a game we saw last year called Shadow Tactics. Coming to, I believe it's out on PC now. They're still working on finishing up the console version of Shadow Tactics. We got to sit down and play it, and it's really good.
Played with the controller this time.
Yeah, being somebody who loves stealth, and this game is literally all about stealth. When Tico picked up the controller and did his usual non-stealth style gameplay, he quickly died. Isn't that right, Tico?
Quickly died. I died, but, I took out like 12 guys first.
In open combat in a stealth game.
Yeah, the game's not designed for combat.
No.
I took the appointment yesterday, and it's literally it's impossible to describe it without just saying Commandos meets Tenchu. Like it's
right?
Exactly that, and it's really good. It's a lot of fun.
Really good. Yeah, I was really impressed with that. I don't know what else did we see that was good.
Whoever's listening to these episodes back to back can definitely notice like a change in tone. Like we were all psyched to start yesterday's episode and go out drinking afterwards. We're all like slow.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, so am I. So. Bring on the beer.
So am I, but we are obviously, everyone here is dragging ass. It's been a long day. Oh, it's not, it's their side. It's their side.
So we also got back in to see Seven as another one that we saw last year as well. Saw a little bit more of that than they showed us last year because it was very bare bones that we saw last year. And they gave us a little bit more of in-depth as to the story in that as well. Seemed pretty neat. I'm waiting to see what that's going to look like on.
So we saw that today too, and so that
I didn't wear my Seven shirt because you
fashion
told
faux pas.
me I shouldn't.
Well, that way you could get a brand new one. If you already have it on, you get a brand new one.
I did get a brand new one.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. So they were unhappy with the game last year. We were all happy with it. They were unhappy with it, and they rebuilt the game within a year. So what we saw today, according to them, was completely brand new. Built from the ground up post PAX.
It still looks good, and I'm excited to check it out, but I think it's still a long ways off.
It is a challenging game. It is not something you're just going to sit down and mindlessly play. That is a game you have to be on top of.
Yeah.
And it's another game where you're just not going around and hacking and slashing.
No, it's basically an
around.
isometric action adventure RPG. You can play in stealth. You can play in open combat. You can kind of go about your missions however you want. There's a lot of verticality, so there's a lot of climbing and stuff like that, like in say Assassin's Creed. But it's still top down isometric. But what's neat about it is they've the very huge open world. But not only is it just a big map, but that map is stacked because there's several layers. You can climb forever. You can be in the bottom of a mine or a quarry or something, and then climb all the way up to the top of like a building on a mountain. And all those layers exist. And when you look down, you can see everywhere you just climbed. Like it's really impressive.
It is. I'm not sure if it's my kind of game. Maybe something I'm more interested in watching, but there seems to be a lot to it. I think something you just said where it's not ready seems to be the tone for the whole weekend so far.
A lot of games, yes.
A lot of games are not ready. A lot of people aren't prepared at the booth. A lot of games I show up to and they don't have the resolution right, meaning like their menu options are not on the screen. They're like blown out to the side where you can see like little menu like, all right, that's where I'm supposed to generate my health, but I can't see the full thing. This weekend has a different tone than other weekends in the past.
It really, really does.
Yeah,
There's
a lot of not wanting to commit to release dates and stuff like this. Like, do we know when this is coming out, what it's coming out for? And it's a lot of hemming and hawing. It's like, well, It's going to come out for this, maybe this. We're going to work on this, maybe this year, maybe next year.
One thing we are seeing a lot of, and very consistent, when people, they're not giving you a release date, they are at least saying PC and PS4. That is like 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've run into a lot of indie people who've always said, like, unable to commit. That's happened to me in the past. But one thing I've definitely noticed this year is almost everything is PC, PS4, Xbox One, or PC and at least one of the consoles. Like, consoles are way more prevalent now, especially in the indie scene, than they used to be.
That, and just on the first day while we were in, a lot of the booths that we were in, which were smaller indie games, there was PlayStation people from PlayStation, from the the guys that do the indie stuff, and then some other marketers and whatnot in the booths themselves. So
yeah, the PlayStation section's showing a lot of indie games. What was the Esther? What was the name of that one that you saw earlier?
Yeah, the Edith Finch.
Yeah, why did I say Esther? They're both old lady names.
But yeah, you're seeing a lot of a presence of PS4 really pushing for the games, even here at the at PAX. So it's pretty impressive that what they're starting to bring to the table there as far as supporting these indie devs. So
you have something to say, Sean?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to add to that while we were on the topic of 7, because in the same booth, which is imgn.pro, they also had a game called Inner Chains. And this is a first-person horror shooter.
To me, it felt like a slow version of Doom.
Very slow, but very, it was a very dark, very sort of demonic looking setting. Your weapon is actually part of your arm, like almost like it's organic. Everything is very, it's a combination of like rocks and organics. But the way they've developed the game is you can use the environment to attack your enemies as well. You can lure them into plants or creatures that will attack you as you go by. You can lure them to go by them as well, because it just attacks anything going by. And then there's things you can drop from the ceiling and then light it on fire. And there's only 3. He said there's only 3 weapons in the whole game.
We got to use the flamethrower and then the cedar gun.
Yeah, which there are certain, I don't know if they're zombies or what they are, but if they have a green tinge to them, if you shoot the seed into their chest, it actually grows a tree out of them and it attacks anything around them, and then they just die. So I mean, there's some neat things about it. It looked good. It was interesting, but like Tico said, it's super slow moving, really slow moving.
First person? Is it first person?
First person, yeah.
So you mentioned it plays like Doom. What I felt like the darkness, right? Is, that game where the arms come out like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything seems okay until you actually play the game. You know what I mean? The concept, the visuals. And then you played the game, and it was just utter trash.
I felt that it was really, really slow. That was
the guy with the love-hate baseball cap was the one showing it to us.
Yeah.
And he came right out and said the enemies move too slow and the guy moves too slow.
That was a big thing, because even the darkness, that's a quick-paced game. You're running around stabbing guys through the face with your demon arms and stuff like that.
It reminded me of the darkness mixed with like Shadow of the Damned.
But just as you were saying before, this game is nowhere near release.
Nowhere near. I mean, this thing would need at least 2 years. This is not something that could come out.
No, it's still a ways off, just like most of the stuff. I think the one game we saw today, which you saw yesterday, I think is the closest to launch, and it's March 29th, and that's Snake Pass.
Right.
And it's ready to go.
Yes.
Right? They're here like saying, hey, we're done, we're about to release. And I don't think we saw anything else that is actually on its way.
I should point out we kicked children off that game as well.
We kicked children off the couch, Mike, so we could play Snake Pass.
While we're on the topic of Snake Pass, I want to mention too, I think it was during your interview, I talked to the guy about, because I heard the Yacht Club guys said that developing for the Switch was really easy. So I asked them, because they ported it to the Switch because it's on all the other consoles. I asked them, and they agreed. They said it's really easy to develop for the Switch. It wasn't a problem at all, which is great to hear.
Yeah, because the Switch you can develop in Unity. Unity
they mentioned Unreal too.
Unreal Engine 4 supports the Switch. So if you've developed a game in Unreal Engine and you have essentially you have I can't remember you basically have the engine to export it to whatever console you're licensed to export to. So the engine just takes care of it for you. There's probably some tweaks you need to do for each system, like button mapping, the button images and stuff, but the engine itself essentially exports to that console.
Just flip the switch.
Just flip the switch.
So let's try to get some positive things out of the way. One game that I played that has potential, still a ways off, is this game called Dunk Lords. 2v2 basketball, think NBA Jam, think NBA Street. It's the developer from Spelunky. And, it's an interesting concept. Right now it's just couch co-op. They're a small team. They don't know if they can fit in the online stuff or not. But it has, all fictional characters, and it has a meter, like sort of in-game. Your character will start like, for lack of a better term, turn like a flaming red color.
He's on fire.
Right, stuff like that. And then you hold down the B button, and he progresses to his next power. And I think he can maybe progress 2 or 3 times. So if you like basketball, fast-paced, couple times, it seemed pretty decent.
They definitely don't seem to be shying away from their similarities to NBA Jam. I mean, even the music sounds like straight out of NBA Jam. It's like NBA Jam. I mean, you could push an NBA Jam, but this is like you can straight up just cold cock people. It's like arch rivals,
right?
And a lot like that. And all the characters like these crazy wacky. There's a guy with a radish for a head and like a robot and stuff like that. But so they said they don't know about online.
And Jay was talking to him about online while I was playing, and Jay can elaborate on it in a minute. But I think the game is Q1 2018. So this is one of the games I left with saying, all right, that didn't feel like it was ready, and I'm glad to hear that it's still a year away, and they're acknowledging, hey, this is the first time we're showing it. This is an alpha. This is the best we got right now. We know it needs to get better. Some of the other places I went to, you didn't get that feeling. It was sort of like, yeah, what's wrong with it?
Yeah, there was. I don't want to. Leave the subject because Jay can talk about the online, but I did play a couple of games. I'm like, this feels kind of shoddy. When is this going to release? And they were, it's next month. I'm like, really?
Slowly back away. Doop, 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 doop.
Yeah, with the Dunk Kings there.
Dunk Lords.
That looked like a very compelling game to play. It would be a lot of fun to play with people. And I was looking at it, I'm like, but how many people actually sit and play couch co-op now? So that's what it's going to be, and it's on PC, so it's not even console. So for me, it's looking at it like, how much of a audience are you going to have? So I asked if they would have online, and it's pretty much just him working on it. So he said due to that, he would have to have an outside source or whatnot. So this is very early on. This is not ready to be put out yet. So I'm hoping that somehow it gets picked up by one of the consoles, hopefully PlayStation.
That's what I was going to say. Like if it could get the like the Disc Jam or Rocket League treatment, that could do wonders for this game if they got polish on it.
Because that would be so much fun, because they have a 2-player mode in it where you can play, and then there's was it the arcade mode or story mode? I can't remember which. I think the story mode.
Yeah, you can play story mode and arcade mode. Arcade will give you 8 players to start with. And there'll be 16 players in total. You have to play the story mode to sort of incentivize you to unlock characters for the arcade mode, so you have a full roster of players.
Yeah, so if you could play that stuff online with friends, which that's hard to do for a small dev that, I understand, but I think that's what it would take to...
I mean, sometimes I think, we look through the gaming lens in a narrow scope. We're older, our friends are not kids that are in the neighborhood, These guys are in Canada. We're in the U.S. Joe's in California. Oregon. So there's people that still go to universities, colleges. Those people,
they jump all over.
They jump all over the couch co-op. But I think you're correct. For the listeners that listen to us, couch co-op's not a huge thing unless you're playing with your kids or something like that. Or what?
Couch co-op is nice, but it's not going to push games.
No, it's not. Everybody now is used to online stuff. That's where it needs to be. Sean and Tico or Brian, anybody else have a positive game that they saw today they want to talk about?
Yeah, there is one that I think I will really like. It's called The Town of Light, and it's It's actually based on, I believe, actual things that happened in this town. The whole game is modeled after the real town. Like all these buildings exist. They took their cameras through, filmed everything as it is. It's a psychological thriller, and it's for lack of a better term, it is a walking simulator. There's no enemies. There's no combat. It's just discovering the story of this girl that was sent to this mental hospital back in the 40s, I think, something like that.
Yeah, in Italy.
Yeah. I thought you said France.
No, it's in Italy. He actually went and visited. I was talking with him. He went down and visited them, and the guy actually lives about an hour away from where it's at, and he drove him down there, and he's like, I'd already played through some of the early stuff, and he says, it was really eerie to be walking through this place, and he's like, I'd never been there, yet I knew it because they modeled it so accurately to the point where, like, there's a wheelchair that you go into one of the rooms, and he says that wheelchair was sitting there still, not moved.
Yeah, because they actually walked through this place to get the model right, to get everything right. And, I like these kind of games. I think, Tico, you described it really well, more like a psychological Gone Home.
Yeah, it felt very similar to Gone Home. I mean, a little bit more puzzle and sort of the sanity sort of effect to it, but felt very similar to that. I really enjoyed the visuals of it as well, being able to go through and sort of, you really got a sense that you were sharing that experience with the character that you're playing.
Yeah, the whole idea is they want to take the player through what it's like to suffer from that kind of mental illness, like in the 40s, exactly. Like, just the things they'd see, the things they'd experience, and the way they were treated. I'm really looking forward to that game. It's dark, but I love psychological thrillers in any way. So this game is kind of up my alley without it being like jump scares and just things jump, because there's nothing supernatural about this game. It is literally based on a true thing that happened.
So it's coming. It's already out on PC, so I already have it on PC. But they've totally revamped the game now that they've hooked up with their publisher, Wired, and so it's going to be coming out on PC and PS4, maybe the Xbox One as well.
And Xbox One, yeah.
And it looks totally different. The PC version I have, it just wasn't
Washed out?
Yeah, it just didn't have. It wasn't as vibrant as it can be. They put more color in the game. The one I have now is not black and white, but it's not as. It doesn't grab you, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was pleased what I saw with today. We didn't get a chance to sit down and play with it because I already have it. And I was like, why am I going to sit down and play something I already own? But if you do already own it, like myself, you will get the update for free.
Yeah, no, so I'm looking forward to that. I mean, other than the stuff we've already talked about, today wasn't. There was nothing spectacular today, to be honest with you.
We saw Victor Vran, which is like a Diablo. We talked about that.
We saw that as well, yeah.
And we played through the Motorhead stuff. But, another place that we went through, and they were having a lot of technical difficulties there, so it was hard to really get in and immerse yourself. But what we played seemed like maybe a little bit like a poor man's Diablo,
I'd have to agree with that. I was playing that, but I played the base game, which I believe is already out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So right, came out a year ago on PC. It's not on a console yet, but so I was playing the base game a little bit just to get familiarized with it. And the game is a Diablo clone, kind of, in a way. Not really a clone, but I mean they do things different. But
they have no qualm saying it's a clone because they love Diablo.
Right. So it does play like that. But when I put the Motorhead in one, just the music and whatnot, just it kind of changed. It's amazing how much just some good music that you enjoy can change the tone of the game, and it made it even more enjoyable for me to play.
And the aesthetics of the game too. I mean, we played through there was like a World War II, like bombed out area.
Right, because that's what Lemmy. Lemmy is a World War II or was a World War II historian. He collected a lot of German paraphernalia and stuff like that, whether it was helmets or swords or anything like that. So. So that's why they collaborated and things like that. And what was funny is you play the game, you unlock sort of antidotes. I mean, obviously he died before he could put his touches on this game. Supposedly what would have happened is you unlock certain things and there would be the quote from Lemmy would be talking to. Instead it's some sort of rock historian giving you the quote. There's guitar slides that you can do, so your guy runs and does this slide with his
knee
guitar.
slide,
knee slide, and
drop an amp on your enemies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's those touches like that, and then of course they got all the music, Motorhead music, and supposedly there's some unreleased tracks in there as well. To me, Motorhead's one of the best bands of all time, so it's weird, and it's also sometimes you would like to see Motorhead in a Diablo game, not a Diablo clone. He sort of requires a game that is maybe up to snuff a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything brand new. The concept was neat, but the gameplay itself was very Diablo and didn't really jump out at me.
Right. Anything else, guys, that you want to talk about?
I took my one and only VR appointment today, and I don't know if you guys saw The American Dream. It was in the Australian. They have an indie scene. They have a China indie area. They have Australian, but it's an Australian company, and it's just it's like an on-rail shooter because everyone's still figuring out how to move in VR games right now, and it's as if you go to a 1950s World Fair. And you're on a ride created by the gun manufacturers, and they're trying to convince you that guns are not only the solution to all the world's problems, but it's literally how you do everything in your day. It's how you feed your baby with a gun. It's how you make your food with a gun. It's all very tongue-in-cheek. It's a satire. It's got the the themes of 1950s Fallout. It's an uncomfortable optimism where it's lighthearted. They use guns and it's a dark subject matter, but it's very funny. And so all you can see in VR is your guns. You can't even see your hands, and you have to put holes in bagels. You have to take a bite. You start off as an infant with a pair of guns, and your mom comes in and feeds you with a gun. Your food's on the end of her gun, and you have to bite the food off. And to get your mom's attention, you have to shoot the door.
Comes in with his gun and says, "Yeah, Mom, it's dinner time."
Easy, Mike. But it was a ton of fun, and the coolest thing about the game was the reloading mechanism. Usually in shooters, reloading is a hassle, and to reload in this game, you would push a button on the side of your ride, and it would shoot the clip in the air and slow down like the Matrix, and you would jam your gun onto the clip, which is going in slow motion, so you just feel like a total badass every time you reload. It was tons of fun. So if you get a chance to play American Dream, do it. I played Elex, which you guys talked about. I won't belabor that point too much.
What'd you think?
It was pretty. The combat was pretty lacking. It looks
that's what I said. Remember yesterday, the combat definitely needs work.
And it was it seemed to ask you to kind of. I feel like they're trying to get in here. People are knocking on the door.
Maybe the zombie apocalypse started.
Pitchforks are outside. It does sound like there's a zombie apocalypse outside. Send help. But I played Elex, and the combat seems to be reminiscent of Souls, but it doesn't let you be that agile. The dodge is really slow and sloppy, so I got killed quite often too.
Yeah, they said they're still tweaking all that stuff. It's still, again, it's not ready for release. But overall, what did you think of the environment, the world, the game itself?
Well, Elex last year, if anybody can remember, was my worst game of show. Same exact game, and as soon as I sit down, I was I have played this before, and I couldn't believe I booked another appointment for it because it was garbage. They were just Nordic games last year. In between last PAX and this PAX, Nordic games became THQ Nordic, and so this is the same. So it has made tremendous progress from last year. Last year the game was virtually unplayable. This year the game is in a slightly better state, but that thing still needs a lot of work.
It needs work. But I like where they're going with it.
And it needs a considerable amount of work, and there seems to be a certain quality of development from Europe games that just I don't you joke on your show often about Styx, that comes from that same sort of realm of are these guys, do they have the chops to do it? Do they have the time? Are they committed as other developers? Where's the disconnect that some of these games don't come out with the same polish? Is it money? Is it maybe it's a money?
It's,
It's a
I think it's
resource.
money and resources, right? You're talking about teams that are like 5 to 10 people versus, you take Ubisoft that's got thousands of people working on the same game. So you've got that time, you've got that money investment, you've got that skill set. Then you talk about a team with 5 to 10 people, and they're all, they do what they can, right? But they certainly don't have the time, the money, or just the sheer number of people to really polish things.
But to answer your question, I thought it was a really cool environment. It's a complete smash together of sci-fi and fantasy, like we talked about it in the previous cast. So it's a really ambitious idea. The balancing is going to be really, really tough, and it's a brand new IP. And as you've heard us say, it's still a little rough. And to get people to accept a brand new IP with its lore and its whole new world, you have to make a really good first impression. So if they want this to catch on, and it's a really cool idea, they need to polish.
And along those lines, I mean, I think this is the theme, and we've got enough people here. Do you think that it seems that they're putting these games out, they're not ready, and they're giving a bad impression? I know they're trying to get out there and try to get in the face and see, and like I said, the PlayStation people are in there, but to have, at PAX, people going in to see it, and it's not there, and it's not playing that well, and it kind of gives it a bad name from the beginning. Is this a good trend that they're starting to do? Because the majority of the games that we've seen have been in that condition so far, and it's kind of been a little bit disheartening. We really have only found a few that I would want to own at this point in time.
Well, there's a big difference between putting something out super early, I'm looking at you, we happy few, and playing something at PAX. Compared to being able to play early access online, that's way bigger audience than you're going to see at PAX. So I think actually bringing in an early game, maybe not as early as some of these, but an early game to PAX is a good idea, because you get a lot of free playtesting, a lot of user feedback, especially if it's not a PR firm, if it's just the devs right there.
This is their second and third year that they've been here, and the game is still in a similar state.
Well, games take you have a small team of people. Games can take years of development, But the other thing too I noticed this year about PAX East itself is it feels like, what do we need the indie mega booth for when the entire show is practically the indie mega booth? It's really all of these things that we've seen they're all independent studios.
Well, I think they get certain perks for being in the indie mega booth. I think they have to apply.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Well, sure.
The whole show feels indie now versus, when the show started 8 years ago, it was AAA everywhere. It was Ubisoft, Microsoft, Sony, Activision.
Well, the floor is cut in half, right? So basically, one side of the floor is what you just mentioned: Xbox, PlayStation, Square Enix, Nintendo, Twitch, Logitech, things like that. And then the other half of the floor is all the independent, everything else.
Yeah.
Which used to be empty space.
I don't know. It's still pretty full. It is definitely full. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing for all these indies to have their games here. No, because it gets their name out. It gets people looking at their game, and it gets it gives interest. Right? People now have an interest in this game. They're going to follow it.
It's a test bed too for publishers too. They could see the reaction of people playing. Maybe people come and play Elex and they're playing it for 5 minutes and walk away, and then maybe THQ Nordic says, you know what? We'd rather cut our losses here. We spent X amount of dollars on 2 years to bring it here. 2 years in a row, people haven't played it, and now we're moving on, and it just won't see the light of day. Rather than, we're going to keep this close to the vest. We think it's a good game. People we bring in thinks it's a good game, but that's only 100 people, and they invest all this money, and the thing totally friggin' flops.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of the AAA games like you mentioned either, and the ones that are here, a lot are already out, but the ones that aren't, I mean, the lines are so long that even we can't get in them at this point in time. And one of them is Mass Effect. That's coming out 2 weeks already. That's polished. That's big AAA. So
it's only multiplayer Mass Effect. Honestly,
what they're showing here, you mean?
What they're showing here is only multiplayer Mass Effect.
The crazy thing about that too is they said they were going to have this was going to be a beta multiplayer online for the consoles, and they pulled it, and so they're just using it here now. So they're not really testing the servers.
Well, yeah, because
so.
if there's going to be something that's buggy and not quite ready for widespread release, much better to do it in person, where devs can also tell people who are playing it, oh, we're going to fix that, than just having an early access or a beta
Right.
where everybody and their mom can bitch about it and the devs can't have a direct line of communication with them. But like you guys were saying about the indie scene, I don't like to see as many games that are so, unpolished or not quite ripe. But the fact that there's mostly indie games here, I love it. I think that's awesome. I think indie is the future of the industry. And the few that are here, like Nintendo, I'm happy that Nintendo's here. That's probably the biggest AAA booth. But I am fortunate enough to be able to have that media hour yesterday when I played the stuff at Nintendo because, like you guys said, those lines are insane for like Nintendo or for, I don't know, what are some of the other, what is the World War II game, Raid? That's had a really huge line that I haven't even looked twice at. 'Cause I'm like, no, huge line every time. Or Quake.
The lines are capped 3 hours after doors open.
So the one thing too, though, that I've noticed here is that the monitors that all of these developers have been given to show their game they're crappy monitors. So we're not really seeing what they've truly developed. Like one developer said that he developed his game, I can't remember which one it was, for PlayStation 4 Pro at full 4K, but they're showing their game on a 720p monitor, which makes the game itself kind of look crappy.
Well, Victor Vran was the same thing. Those were 720p monitors.
Right.
You could see he was having an issue with his Xbox monitor. Every time it came on, it said 720p when the Xbox thing lit up. Now, I don't know. From my understanding, though, they rent those. They get those when they get the booth.
They basically rent them in the booth. They're provided by Alienware for the booth for this event.
Right.
Yeah, and so the developer or the publisher books them essentially. They rent them out. But the fact that they're providing these monitors for games that are designed for much higher resolution, nobody really gets an idea of what the game actually looks like. And I think that's unfortunate for all these developers here.
No,
Especially the ones that want their game out there for the first time.
You can see that in just even the small booths. They have like 3 monitors set up, and you look at the big one, look at the one small, and then you look over here, and there's arguably always one that is always better than the other. And I think we were looking at that game Distance today, and I said to Sean, I said, go look over here. I go, this thing is really popping off the screen over here compared to this big monitor that we're all looking at right now. It sort of looks washed out.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's unfortunate. I mean, I think for everyone. For us to experience the game, it doesn't look as clean as it really does when we can play it at home, And then for the developers, they don't get to show off their work, how it was developed because they're given crappy monitors. That's just unfortunate.
Now, a piece of that too is, I think we need to realize that too as media too, and we take that into account. And it may sound like we're complaining, but we're also trying to put some of that info out there for you. But
yeah, I don't think we've ever really criticized the visuals. I think everything across the board that we have said is games are slow, clunky. I think visuals come and go. But they're really just some of these games. It's like, man, will they just put the foot down on the pedal and make these guys go faster? Man, they're so slow.
Yeah, I'd say like begrudging games for their visuals when some of them are this early too. Like we all know that wouldn't make any sense because they can slap something on the visuals much quicker than they could like redesign gameplay. So we're all aware of that. But
and I think a piece of this too of why we're discussing this subject for so long is that we've been to many PAXs and it's evolved and changed as we go. But this one seems like it's one of the biggest floors we've had, but with some of the least polished and finished games. There are a lot of indie. But still, we're running into games that, like you said, you've run into a few where they're like, yeah, we're releasing a couple months, and you're like, really?
It's different circumstances every time. They might be at the end of their budget. Their publisher might be breathing down their neck. You never know why someone has to release a game when they do.
Right, but I'm just saying, in the past, we've been able to find a few gems during the day, and in this case,
I've seen a couple. I really think American Dream is one of the better VR games I've ever played. The game I played yesterday, Church in the Darkness, I think is really, really good. Shadow Tactics, I loved. There are gems. There are. Maybe the rough that the gem is in is a little rougher than it has been in previous years, but I think there are still gems.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Quickly, maybe talk about one game they're looking forward to tomorrow to sort of tease people what to expect.
We have nothing on our schedule tomorrow. Tomorrow is about going and checking out the tabletop area. Maybe play some of those indie tabletop and just learn some new games and wander around and check out the stuff we missed. I want to go see Yonder, which you talked about, and hopefully get some Australian cookies.
Yeah, are you going to ask for Tim Tams? Are you going to...
Absolutely, we're going to try to get some snacks.
That was one of the gems.
So I'm looking forward, we've established a relationship with the Chainsaw Awesome Games guys who put out Night Squad. They got a new game called Aftercharge, 3 vs. 3. I guess one team is invincible and one team is invisible. So we're going to see what that's all about. Is it?
Yeah, I almost took that that appointment, but it was like just before PAX started, and I decided to leave myself open time. And I was kind of glad I didn't, because when I saw it, I saw that it's 3v3, right?
Yes.
Everybody's playing with a mouse and keyboard when I saw it, and I was like, "Whew, good. I'm glad I didn't take that appointment."
That surprises me because they're usually.
It seems like a controller game. Maybe I've also seen different booths who can change it out. They're like, "What would you prefer?" And they could plug in a controller really quick. So maybe they can, but I'm glad I didn't take it because I would make a fool out of myself. But that game looks really fun.
They are going competitive on this one. They're going for a competitive, mix, kind of different games. So we haven't seen it yet, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
And then Dead by Daylight. It's already out on PC. It's coming to consoles. This is again a 4v1 game where one person can be like the monster or whatever. Right. This is just curious to see what that's going to be like. Some people have played it and enjoyed it on the PC, so looking forward to that. I have The Church in the Darkness, which Corey liked, and you saw Serial Cleaner today, right? Yes.
I did see Serial Cleaner today. I wasn't going to bring it up though because I know you're playing it tomorrow, so I'd rather be able to talk about it when someone else has also played it.
All right. Well, beer is calling. Food is imminent. We're going to wrap this up. Anybody have any closing words? Otherwise, it's been day 2.
Well, I had a couple of games I was going to discuss real quick.
I know, but I got the high sign that we got to wrap it up.
That's good then. We'll make it real quick. I saw Bulletstorm. Mike mentioned it the other day. It's Bulletstorm. If you're interested in it, check it out. I went to see What Remains of Edith Finch. It's from the people that made Unfinished Swan. And it's kind of just walking around a house, and each room that you go into, you're visiting your relatives. And you go through and you're discovering what was in their lives and what eventually caused their deaths. And it's extremely well done. It looks beautiful. And the discovery part, they kind of make it kind of different. As an example, the first room that I went into, it was you possessed a cat, which then you possessed a shark that turned into an owl that turned into a sea monster, which brought you back to your room, and come to find out you'd eaten some holly berries, and I believe that you were kind of tripping out. So very well done, and there's multiple rooms, and you keep moving through, and as you go through, you fill a family tree and find out about the history of your ancestors. So that was really good. And tomorrow, what I want to go see is, I've got some information, was Super Cloud Built is another one that I want to kind of check out, and it almost looks like a
yeah, that's already been out. It's called Cloud Built. This is just a remastered version because I think they're bringing it to consoles.
Yeah, and it looks really good.
It's a parkour type game.
Yes, they call it
cell shaded. I'm not sure if you guys. That was a couple of years ago that came out on the PC.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go check that one out tomorrow when I get a chance. But that pretty much covers it. And
all right, Jay, we'll do the honors again.
Well, until next time, same beta time, same beta channel, and hopefully tomorrow's podcast we'll all have our Snickers and not be so grumpy. See ya!